GTX 1050. I've seen this recently go for as much as £130 online, second hand at the moment, which is just insane. Granted, it's for a low profile version, but still silly numbers. This card was always a little weird when it came out. I mean, being only a 2GB card in the era when 3GB and 4GB were almost standard. Same wattage as its big brother, the 1050 Ti, but it's actually a higher clock card than the 1050 Ti, even though it's got less CUDA cores and obviously less VRam. But much like with the 750 Ti, the 2GB of VRAM does hold it back in places. But does the extra performance actually help? Well, we'll have a look. I'm going to put it through quite a few games today, so this video is going to be a little longer than normal, but I wanted to show that this card is still just about viable. But over, like let's say, the 1080 Ti, get the GTX 1080 Ti every day of the week, because this card cost me about £50 when I bought it. You really should not be paying any more than that for this card these days, and the Ti version shouldn't really cost you more than £80. Even that I would say is a little high. But let's go have a look at this card in more detail, and let's see what kind of performance we get from this card from Palette. Let's start with some 3D Mark. As you can see in TimeSpy, it scores 2105, which is of course slower than the GTX 1050 Ti, but it's about the same as an RX 460. In Firestrike, it's a bit higher than the RX 460, but still lagging behind GTX 1050 Ti. In Night Raid, it's a similar story. We're scoring 23,954, and in Wildlife, it pulls ahead of the RX 460 for whatever reason, and it's a similar story for the Passmark benchmark as well. In the Final Fantasy 14 Shadowbringers benchmark, we get a similar kind of thing as what we saw in the Wildlife and Passmark benchmarks. The GTX 1050 is a little slower than GTX 1050 Ti, but it is faster and pulling away from the RX 460. This might be because this game is more optimized for Nvidia. Doesn't really matter too much because that's the results, even with the less VRAM. It's a similar story in the Final Fantasy 15 benchmark. We get the 1050 and 1050 Ti round about what you'd expect, and the RX 460 is lagging behind a bit here, which also is not a surprise, but it will give just about playable frame rates on the lowest settings at 1080p. So that's pretty impressive for a game that's as hard to run as Final Fantasy 15. Now let's look at something a little older. This is Alien Isolation. Use this game a lot in these benchmarks because it runs rather well on most things. As you can see here, we're getting very high frame rates overall. We get an average of 116 FPS in this small little run that I do. It's faster than the RX 460 again, and slower than the GTX 1050 Ti, which is surprising because I was expecting the higher clock speed here to make more of a difference, because this game doesn't need a lot of VRAM, but it just goes to show the difference of this card, even when you keep below that 2GB VRAM limit.
An access to her. She was trying to hack the elevator's security. Circuits are fried, easy fix. Just need to find a new data set.
But how about a game that requires a lot of VRAM, even at its minimum requirements? Here is Doom Eternal. As you can see, it's running okay, let's be honest. It's running on low here because of that lack of VRAM. We're getting an average around about 45 FPS, which is not bad. It's just about playable for this. If you turn on a dynamic scaling, you can get 60 FPS no problem. It's about the same as where the GTX 1050 Ti is, which is interesting, but of course it's slower than, say, a GTX 1650, and once again beats the RX 460. And because there's some kind of unwritten rule, we have to look at Crysis. This is running on 8x anti-aliasing and on the highest setting. As you can see, we're getting an average around 51 FPS. It can vary depending on if you're on an indoor section or outdoor section, but it's playable just about. If you knock some settings down a bit or turn off AA, you can get much more playable frame rates, even to the high 90s. So this game is certainly playable on this card. just not on the maximum settings. Looking at Baldur's Gate 3, this is with patch 4, so still early access. This is on ultra settings. As you can see, we get an average around about the 30 FPS mark, which is playable for a game like this. It's just not ideal. With knocking down to medium settings, you get a slightly higher frame rate, but it's not great. So this card does struggle. You can probably tweak the settings a little bit, turn some shadows off, and you can get the frame rate up quite high. But you're talking console performance from this card with this particular game. Granted, this is the opening of the game where there's a lot of fire and stuff going on. When you get off the ship, it is a little bit better, but not massively.
Warding runes. The pod won't open unless they're destroyed.
So how about something like Shadow of the Tomb Raider? This is still the opening of the game, so it can vary quite a bit throughout the game, but we're getting an average of 30 FPS, so console performance. This is on high, so you could probably knock some settings down and get a slightly smoother frame rate. I couldn't expect you to get 60 FPS with this card, especially with the lack of VRam, but it's certainly playable for this game if you don't mind having sub 60 FPS performance. Well, how about the remake of Mafia? This is running on high, and as you can see, just in the opening cutscene, it's struggling to get 30 FPS. Let's be honest, it's hitting the high 20s, so you could probably knock a few settings down here and try and get it above that 30 FPS. Maybe get 30 FPS locked. But overall, this isn't a game you can be able to run at 60 FPS, though certainly playable for a game like this if you don't mind sub 60 FPS performance. So it's, dealer's choice, let's be honest. The card's pretty good, just that VRAM is once again holding it back.
So, church, it's Sunday already.
Eyes on the road, please.
Now here's another game you're not going to be running on this card. Here is Metro Exodus. This is on the ultra setting, I believe, not extreme, but as you can see, it's struggling even inside to hit that 30 FPS mark. So not really great at all, but fun experience, but not playable for a game like this because it's quite fast paced at certain times. And even running on some lower settings, and this is outside now, running on medium, we are struggling to get a consistent 30 FPS, so really not playable. I mean, once again, knock the resolution down, dealer's choice and all that, but at 1080p, you're not going to be running this game on this card. Now let's look at another modern game. This is Rage 2. This is running on the lower setting, and as you can see, we get an average about 41 FPS ish. It struggles to run it on high, and if you want to get decent frame rate, you can do the dynamic scaling just like with Doom Eternal, and you can get a smooth 60 FPS. Well, smooth enough if you set the internal resolution to be about 60%, and that way it is playable. Just doesn't look great.
Defenses arrive and ready to deploy.
Now let's look at some live service games. This is Dead by Daylight, running on the latest version. This card used to be able to run this game without any real issues at 60 FPS on Ultra. Now this is on Ultra in the latest version, and as you can see, we're struggling to get 60 FPS average. We're probably hitting the low 50s, high 40s, depending on what you're doing in particular. But if you knock it down to high, you can just about get the average of 60 FPS depending on the map. But if you knock it down to, let's say, medium, you can have almost 60 FPS, perfectly locked, no problems at all. So this game's perfectly playable on this card, just no longer playable on the highest settings. Now let's look at Apex Legends. This is running on low with a streaming budget of 2 gig. And as you can see, we're getting an average frame rate of the high 60s with dips into the high 50s. So that's not bad at all. Perfectly playable. just don't set the settings too high, and even in a firefight they don't drop down too much, so you shouldn't have any issues playing this game on this card. Just keep the settings on the lowest.
Listen up, I'm getting shot at.
And lastly, Fortnite, because someone always asks about this game. This is running on medium at 100% resolution, and as you can see, we're getting an average around about 91-90 FPS, and since everyone wants a 60 FPS experience in this, on medium it's perfectly playable at 60 FPS locked. You could probably even get it on high and get a similar experience. Once again though, I will point out this is with a fast CPU. A lot of people seem to miss that point and tell me that this is incorrect, but this is Fortnite running on a fast CPU on medium 100%, and we're getting around about the 90 FPS average. As you can see, overall the game performance is okay at 1080p. Knock it on medium, keep the textures a little low to keep in that 2 gig limit, and it does work. Performance wise, it is okay. It is faster than, let's say, the RTX 460 in some cases. So there we have it really. You can get this card, well, you used to be able to get this card quite cheap. At the current price at the moment, do not bother. It is a complete waste of your money. Wait, save your money up. So the price of this card is currently selling for, it is not worth the money. At those prices, you're much better off buying a GT 1030 brand new, or even grabbing one second hand on eBay, because the price of those haven't been inflated yet. And I can't see why they would be, because you can still buy them new. And just slog it out for the next, realistically at this rate it's going to be 6 months, isn't it? And then go grab the TI version of this and sell off your GT 1030. Or go grab something like an RX 580 or something along those lines. But do try and get at least a 4 gig card. Avoid the GTX 970. I've got a video coming up to explain why, because that's actually only a 3 gig card as opposed to a 4 gig. And obviously avoid the GTX 1060 3 gig as well. But I hope that gave you a nice overview of this particular card and where it's limited to and what it's good for. Any questions or comments, leave them below. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, so goodbye.